Hey to all you lovely people out there, and welcome to my channel if you're watching my YouTube, where I talk about living in Japan, traveling, and personal finance. And also, welcome to my podcasters if you're listening to my podcast of the audio of this episode on World Money Matters. Thanks for tuning in. And in this episode, I want to tackle something that is pretty big in the news lately, and that is the Japanese yen absolutely plunging against a lot of other currencies.
Nope. On my kayak sinking. So, and if I move, it sinks lower.
So I've researched a lot into this because I am a salt-based salty boy. I'm very salty about it. I will not lie. I'm pretty butthurt about how the yen has just plunged. So, wearing my Japanese hat. For all the podcasters that can't see me out there, I'm wearing my little Japanese hat in honor of the yen taking a nosedive off the deep end of Value Town. So I'm going to talk about what I've read. I'm going to link the articles and reference the articles that I have used to find out why this is all happening, why the yen is tanking, why it's tanking against the US dollar, and what you can do about it. Okay, so let's talk about currency rates. So I have read maybe 10 or 20 articles about this, maybe minimum 10 or 20 articles. So the first question I want to ask and also answer is why, just why? I'm sure a lot of people are like, why is the yen tanking? Oh my god, right? Why is this happening? And to answer that question, it's pretty complicated, but if you really boil it down, what's happening is there's a lot of inflation going on because of various factors, because of COVID, because of supply chain issues, because of the war in the Ukraine. And just in case you don't know what inflation in essence is the price of things go up and the value of your currency goes down. And a lot of countries in the world now are facing inflation. It's kind of interesting. It's almost like an economic pandemic that's now happening now that the physical pandemic is ending of COVID. Now there's economic disease going around essentially. And what's happening is the US, I think a lot of Europe, a little bit Japan, a lot of countries are facing inflation, meaning the prices of things are going up. And Japan is handling this a lot differently than a lot of other countries, and this is why the yen is plunging. So from the articles I've read, basically what's happening is the US has terrible inflation. The US, the Fed, as they call it, the big bank guys who determine the interest rates of how much it costs to borrow money, how much it costs banks to borrow money, that's the interest rate, the federal interest rate. The US is raising those. So maybe you have seen in the news that the US recently decided to raise the federal funds rate, or just the interest rate, by 0.75%, which has been maybe the highest raise since maybe 1998, if I remember. And on the contrary, Japan, unlike a lot of other countries, has an ultra loose or ultra easy monetary easing policy. So Japan is not raising the rates. The BOJ, the Bank of Japan, has said a lot of times they don't want really rapid changes in currency. However, they're really not wanting to raise it because they want to keep the kind of boost on the economy that low rates give. And I'll do another video or episode explaining kind of how rates affect the economy, but in short, low rates make it a lot cheaper to borrow money. If you can borrow money for cheaper, it's easier to get money, so you can buy a lot of stuff easier. So that interest rate kind of expands out to everyone. If it's cheaper for your bank to get money, then they don't have to raise their rate to lend you money, so it's cheaper for you to get money, so you can buy more things, and it kind of expands out like that. So let's take a look at an article where I found this, and let's look into what they're saying and digest this a little more. So if we take a look here on Nikkei Asia website, it has an article called Yen Falls to 20-Year Low on Rising US Treasury Yields. So we can look at this and try to answer the question, why is this happening? Why is the yen plunging against other currencies, especially the US dollars? This is released April, so it's a bit old, but it still essentially tackles the main points. So it says in here, Japanese yen fell to a 20-year low on Wednesday as the treasury yield continued to rise, prompting investors to buy the dollar and sell the yen. So this is tied to the US Fed raising the interest rates and Japan, the Bank of Japan, not raising their rates. So you can see later down in the article, they say the main cause of the yen sell-off has been the Bank of Japan's continued ultra-loose monetary policy, which is keeping Japanese interest rates depressed, even as the Fed, European Central Bank, and the Bank of England tighten. So if you boil it down, basically the falling yen is due to the differing interest rates between Japan, who's keeping it at ultra low, and basically the rest of the world, who is raising their interest rates, which is making it so that people want to put their money into the higher interest rate areas. So those interest rates basically are, if you buy a bond or buy something like that from that country, a higher interest rate means you are paid more to lend that money. If you lend it in Japan, you're not going to get much money. Whereas in the US, rising interest rates means I would get a higher return for buying a bond or something like that. So it's basically higher guarantee on your money. Bonds are very safe. Higher interest rates means you can get more money for bonds or CDs or simple things that you buy like that. So more people want to put their money into those countries, and thus the demand is higher, and thus the price is higher, because the basic principle of supply and demand in economics. So you can see another explanation on bbc.com, another input on why the yen is plunging. So here, we see so far this year the dollar has climbed by 15% against the yen as the gap between interest rates in Japan and much of the rest of the world continues to grow. The yen has fallen in value against other major currencies because, and this is why, higher interest rates tend to attract foreign investment. That increases demand for and the value of currencies of countries that have higher interest rates. So Japan just refuses to raise their rates, refuses to increase the value of their currency, while everyone else is raising rates and thus raising the value of their currency. Perhaps we could take this as a heed of warning. I expect financial markets to continue to put pressure on the yen, potentially pushing it to well over 140 USD, or rather 140 yen against the dollar, as the Bank of Japan insists on capping interest rates at near zero, while the rest of the world hastily embarks on tightening to get on top of surging non-transitory inflation. Boo, inflation! So, it's not too bad. You can really just boil it down to a lot of countries having a lot of trouble with inflation right now, meaning the value of their money's going down. Prices are going up way too fast. So a lot of countries other than Japan are raising interest rates. That makes it more expensive to borrow money. Then people just don't borrow as much money because it's more expensive to pay back loans. That means there's less supply of the money, which means that the price of things go down because people want to spend less of it because there's just less of it around. If you're swimming in a pool of like $10,000, you're more willing to spend your money than if you only have, say, one or two. More money means more spending. If there's less spending, then prices go down. One or two sentences. The reason why the yen is plummeting against other currencies than the US dollar is other countries are raising their interest rates. Japan is not. And according to Investopedia, their definition of why interest rates raise the price of a currency is, they say, interest rates attract foreign investment in a currency. Thus, if there's more foreign investment, there's more demand for a currency. More demand means higher price. Basic economics. So until Japan starts raising their rates, which they have not said they will do yet, they are at maybe about around 0% interest rates. Very low. And just for context, the United States this month alone rose interest rates 0.75%, whereas Japan has said its highest cap of its interest rate is 0.25. So the US, in 1 month alone, raised the interest rate 3 times more of an amount than Japan would even ever get to. It's just not good. It's not good. And I think Japan's going to see a lot of inflation coming up unless if they do something. But we'll see. I'm kind of biased, and I expect that government workers and people at the Bank of Japan are going to be a little too slow to act to fix anything, but in the end, things will get resolved. But another question I have was, so we answered, why is the yen plummeting against other currencies? Because Japan won't raise interest rates, and there's a diverging amount, or policy, basically. So we said, okay, why do interest rates raise the value of a currency? It's because it attracts foreign investment. So my next question is, why Japan? Why do you want to keep your interest rates low? Why? So according to CNBC, I found an article here that says essentially Japan wants to boost its economy because it has had a very tepid recovery from COVID-19. So it's kind of like a life support. Maybe that's a little more dramatic, but it's like life support for Japan's economy. And they're boosting it because it's been through some hard times. Tokyo Olympics, they can't have tourists now. COVID-19 just was not fun for anybody. So this is boosting Japan's economy. And that, with the fact that Japan's workforce is dwindling and does not have a bright future in the next 10 or 20 years, is concerning. But I'm not a CPA, I'm not a financial analyst, I'm not a financial planner yet, but it's an interesting time that we're in. This is a very interesting time. Some things that you can do to try to solve this problem. You can watch my other video. So I made a currency conversion video about how to hold yen. One option is holding your yen. So you can watch this video, see what I did, or this video in short. I said you can use the Wise app, transferwise. They let you hold up to 1 million yen in your balances account if you're a resident of Japan. If you're not, there's no limit. So this is the best thing I've found. And if you use my link in the description here, you can get a free transfer. I get a free transfer of up to about $750 US. So it's a win-win for everybody. And I genuinely really, really love them as a company. I've used them. They're great. Their rates are great. I just love them. They're not paying me. I'm just saying this from my actual feeling from them. So you can hold yen using that method, or you can just bite it and transfer your money, because according to another guy that I saw talking on, I think, BBC articles, he said he fully suspects that yen to US dollar is going to breach minimum 140. So yeah, that's not good. But it's safe to just dollar cost average at this point and send some money home, because you really don't know what's going to go on. But it's really not a good forecast. But if we're young, if you don't need the money in the next 20, 30 years, you could theoretically hold it. You could hold it and just hope for the rates to get better. But also keep in mind that what you could be doing with that money potentially could get you even more gains. If you take that $20,000 worth of yen and invest it, that could get you a 7% return every year, plus dividends. So you can probably calculate, would it be better biting the bullet, losing the 30% now, investing it, and over time getting those gains? What do you think? It's really just an Excel sheet, and maybe I'll do that in one of my next videos. But in my next video for sure, I'm going to make a video about how to mentally manage the BS in the market now. So there is a realm of investing and stock investing that has to do with psychological economics, and it has a lot to do with fear and kind of greed and how people react during scared times, how you want to sell, how if you're in like good times or like bull market times you want to buy, and just how to keep your cool when things are not good like this, because we just entered a bear market yesterday. So those are not fun. So my next video will be how to manage your mental state and how to keep your cool so you don't just sack all your investments when times get a little rough. Because in the end, things will be fine. Money's not even real, and if it all goes to crap, then we're all screwed, because like millions of people rely on stocks for their retirement and stuff, so it'll be fine. And if it's not, then we're all screwed together. So let me know in the comments. What do you think? How are you managing your yen? How are you managing your finances? What do you think you're gonna do? Are you gonna hold your yen? Are you gonna just bite the bullet? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, we'll see you around.
Momo-chan
Bye-bye.
desu.